Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. This is Sports News episode 26. Today we have three sports to talk about. We have basketball first, and then we have hockey, and then we have football. So, as I just said, we're going to start off with basketball. The Timberwolves have fired coach Ryan Saunders and hired Raptors assistant coach Chris Finch to replace Saunders as their new head coach. The Timberwolves are actually the worst team in the league with a record of 7-24. So it really doesn't seem surprising that they fired their coach because, well, they've only got 7 wins and they've played 31 games, which is really bad. The Rockets released DeMarcus Cousins after 25 games. Hopefully Cousins can get with another team and just get the year back on track, because he's a good center. And I think he should be on a team. And the Rockets were looking for a trade, and they just weren't able to get one, so they then just released him. So hopefully Cousins will sign with another team soon, because I think he is, yes, he's getting on the older side. Yes, he's never been as good after his injuries, but he's a good center, and he's not, maybe he's not a starter, maybe he's a good backup center. And backups still get a lot of playing time. Jamal Murray and Joel Embiid have 50 points on the same day. Murray has 50 points in the Nuggets 120-103 win over the Cavaliers. That game was also Nikola Jokic's birthday, and he got a triple-double. Stats for Murray were 50 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Stats for Jokic, 16 points, 10 assists, 12 rebounds. It's actually quite unusual for a center in the NBA to get a triple-double, because they're typically not very good passing the ball. So they're typically very high on rebounds. I'll get to an example of that in a minute. But Jokic, he's good scoring, passing the ball, and rebounding. And as I mentioned, it was also Jokic's birthday. Joel Embiid had 50 points the same day. His was in the 76ers win, 112-105 win over the Bulls. Embiid had 50 points, 17 rebounds. That's typically a normal amount for center, well over 10 typically, and then 5 assists. That's still a little high for center, but not as high as 10. So, Embiid is actually leading the 76ers to one of the league's best records. And he's actually an all-star starter on Team Durant. And the all-star starters for the all-star game are, so on Team Durant, it is Kevin Durant, Giannis, Bradley Beal, Joel Embiid, and Kyrie Irving. And the coach of that team is Doc Rivers of the 76ers. Rivers is leading the 76ers to be one of the league's best teams. Not in the top 3, but still very good. And then the other team is Team LeBron. So that team's starters, if you actually look at the teams, the starters at least, they're split up East and West. So Durant, Giannis, Beal, Embiid, and Irving are all in the Eastern Conference. And the reserves are yet to be announced. They haven't been announced yet, but they will be announced, and I would imagine they won't divide it up completely East and West Coast, but it's going to be pretty much East versus West, in my opinion. So Team LeBron has LeBron, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, and Kawhi Leonard. The coach of Team LeBron is Quinn Snyder of the Utah Jazz. And Snyder is leading the Jazz to a league best 25-6 record. They're actually the only team with a loss with the amount of losses still in the single digits, because the next best teams, the Clippers and the Lakers, they're both 22-10. So now the worst teams, as I mentioned, the Timberwolves 7-24, the Pistons 8-22, and the Cleveland Cavaliers 10-21. That's it for basketball. And last video I got a comment about the Phoenix Suns. And yes, the Phoenix Suns are playing extremely well. In fact, they're in the top 5 when it comes to best teams. And I expect to see them making a good run through the playoffs this year, even though they're still far way away. Over to the NHL. The Devils have named Nico Hischier their captain. He was the number 1 overall pick a few years ago. And he's currently the youngest captain in the NHL. However, not the youngest ever. And the Devils haven't had a captain since they traded Andy Green. So now they have Hischier. And Hischier has lots of potential. So I think it's actually pretty good. While yes, he's young, you don't necessarily have to be that experienced. But I think it's a good move by the Devils, even though I don't like them. So the Devils named Hischier captain. The Blues' Carl Gunnarsson is out for the season with a knee injury. So it's never really good to be out for a season, because that means it's a rather serious injury. And hopefully it's not going to be an injury that slows Gunnarsson down throughout his career. Lake Tahoe games. It was very chaotic, but very good. So, in the first game, Vegas, Colorado, Golden Knights Avalanche, they played the first period. The Avalanche took a 1-0 lead, and then during intermission, so between the first and second period, they decided that they were going to postpone the game and delay the game. Not postpone it, just delay the game to later that night, because the ice was unsafe. It was in unsafe conditions due to being in the direct sunlight when they were playing. So it was postponed to 12 a.m. Sunday, Eastern Time. The game did finish, and the Avalanche beat the Golden Knights 3-2. The game was delayed almost 12 hours. Not 12 hours, sorry, 8 hours. And then on Sunday, the game was delayed to 7:30 Eastern Time, so it was delayed 4.5 hours. And in the Sunday part of the games at Lake Tahoe, the Bruins beat the Flyers 7-3, and David Pastrnak, I think I said his name right. He has a hat trick in the Flyers 7-3 win in the Bruins 7-3 win over the Flyers at Lake Tahoe. The best teams remain the Maple Leafs. The best team remains the Maple Leafs. They are 14-4-2. The second best team is the Florida Panthers, 12-3-2. And the third best team is the Carolina Hurricanes, 12-4-1. Just a reminder, that would be 12 wins, 4 losses, 1 overtime loss. So it goes wins, losses, overtime losses. The worst teams are the Red Wings at 5-12-3, the Sabres at 5-8-2, and the Senators at 5-14-1. That's it for the NHL. Now we're going to move on to the NFL. The franchise tag period starts today, February 23rd, and it ends March 9th. All non-franchise tagged players will become free agents once free agency starts. And I have a list of a few players that I think might get franchise tagged. And if I were the team, I would franchise tag them. I would franchise tag Dak Prescott. Yes, he played this year under franchise tag, but he only played a few games because then he had that devastating ankle injury against the Giants. If I were the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I would franchise tag Chris Godwin. If I were the Bears, I would tag star receiver Allen Robinson. And if I were the Lions, I'd also franchise tag Kenny Golladay. Now, with the Bears and Lions, in their situations, that's their number one receiver. So Robinson's the Bears and Galladay's the Lions. And the Lions have Marvin Jones and T.J. Hawkinson. Hawkinson's actually tight end. But I think they're good. They're good number one receivers, especially for that team. So I would definitely franchise tag them to keep them on the team. And then I would try to work on a long-term extension. Same thing with Dak Prescott. And then we have Aaron Jones, who should get franchise tagged by the Packers, but he might not. And the reason I think he might not is because they drafted A.J. Dillon out of Boston College in the second round of last year's draft. And he's shown great potential this season. So I think he will be, if they decide to move on from Jones, I don't think it's going to be a 50-50 split Williams and Jones. Not Dillon and Williams, sorry. Dillon should be the lead back, with Williams having number 2 roles like he did with Jones as the lead back. That's it for the NFL. Tiger Woods suffered multiple leg injuries in a single car crash in California. He was reportedly in surgery. So that a scary car crash. With leaving him with serious leg injuries, multiple. But to end with something on a good note, Henrik Lundqvist is back on the ice after having open heart surgery. He posted a video, I think it was him, of him on the ice in a private rink. So it's good to see him back on the ice after his surgery. So that's it for this video. A little bit longer. This one's about 14 minutes. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Comment if you have any questions or anything like that. Share this video with 5 people and tell them to subscribe, because my goal is to share sports news and stuff like that with as many people as possible. So like, subscribe, share, comment, and goodbye.